Hey, what's going on, Skinny Roy? I had a pretty good conversation over the weekend. Saw Jurassic Park or Jurassic World. It felt like Jurassic Park. It felt like the same excitement and quality that went into JP1, and that's what I wanted to talk about because I had a conversation with a fellow animator over the weekend, and we were talking about how the Game of Thrones episode that just passed, or not the finale, but the one before, where spoiler alert, don't listen any longer if you haven't seen the last two episodes I'm not sure what season we're on, whatever. If you haven't seen the last two episodes, don't listen. All right, I'll give you a second to leave the room. Okay, now if you're still listening, it's not my fault if I spoil something for you. Anyway, so when Khaleesi's on the back of the dragon and she's getting out of there, the visual effects, they were just appalling, and it was so bad that I literally, I looked at my wife, and even she noticed. Well, actually, I shouldn't say even she. Honey, if you're watching, I'm sorry. You have a great eye for visual effects. I'm sleeping on the couch tonight. Okay, well, she noticed that it was bad. It was just terrible. The comp was awful. Like, nothing was, like, the colors didn't match. The lighting didn't match. It was just awful. And the animator who I was talking with said, like, well, we have to support everybody, and you can't go around just like saying that it's that was awful or whatever, because we want more visual effects, and more animation work and whatever. But this is what I would say to that. Game of Thrones is like the most successful show on HBO. It's like the most watched show, and I think it's probably holds some records in terms of that. If they don't have the budget to pay for the best visual effects, then they don't deserve to be the best show. That's point blank, period. It used to be. See, this is the thing. I was reminded about, and I was spurred to make this video after seeing Jurassic World, because the effects were great. Right? Animation was great. So, if you're not going to actually take a lot of care with your visual effects and your animation quality, then you should be called out on it. Because this is how we're going to heal the industry, guys. All right? And I know that some people with the best intentions worked as hard as they could on those shots. And to them, I would say, I'm sure you didn't get enough time or money to do the absolute best work on that. And here's why. It used to be, you go to see Jurassic Park, and you know that it's Steven Spielberg executive producing, and you know it's ILM doing the visual effects. And back then, it was only ILM who could do those VFX. That's it. No one else could. So you knew you were getting the best by definition because it was the only. And it was as expensive. It cost what it cost because only they could do it. You couldn't just like go down the street and someone else would underbid them. Nowadays, animation is done, VFX are done by the lowest bidder. And showrunners need to know that we're not going to put up with BS. If your show is the most popular show on television and we are tuning in loyally every single week, then you need to spend the money on the VFX. You need to spend the money. It needs to look fantastic. Or we're not going to watch anymore. All right, and this is what that will do. Eventually, if we show that we care how the VFX look, by like jumping on Twitter and saying, well, that was a huge disappointment at the end of that amazing episode of Game of Thrones to see her get on top of like a plastic dinosaur and sort of get like, 80s green screened out of there. Like, I almost expected to see like the bottom of like the frame like cut off or something. It was so bad. Okay. if we go on Twitter, if we go on social media, and we just say Game of Thrones not good enough, it sucked, then somebody's going to eventually notice and say, like, hey, we have to do better. Now, maybe we shouldn't go to that, company that underbid everyone else by half because their stuff didn't end up looking good. Our audience is pissed off about it. All right, then the budgets will go up again. The sophistication of the audience has to go up because they don't care if the VFX companies go out of business. The showrunners, they don't care at all if a VFX company goes out of business. So if you underbid your competitors by an unsustainable amount just to get the work, and they're happy to give it to you because they're like, you know what? These people will go out of business, and they just want to say that they worked on Game of Thrones. Our show being so highly watched and so popular is good for their demo reel. Is good for that company. And now, if they're not making any money on this episode, that's not our problem. All right. So you have to break the cycle, and as the audience, we can have a say in how much the showrunners get away with. Okay. So that's just how I feel. All right. So if you don't like something, don't feel that you are doing a disservice to the industry by talking about how bad it was. Okay. We don't have to be. It's not like it. This is a cutthroat business. It doesn't have to be kumbaya. Hold hands. All right. Do better work. Tell your colleagues. Tell your coworkers. Tell your friends. Do better work. All right? Because if we all are doing better work, then someone's going to have to pay for it at the end of the day. That's how I feel. Okay? I'd like the audience. I work on Finding Bigfoot. I'd like the audience of Finding Bigfoot to say that they want more animation and better animation in Finding Bigfoot. But it's the highest rated show on Animal Planet. And there's a budget for the animation that we get, and it's been the same since the show started. It's not even going up with inflation. All right, so hold people to task. All right, hold everybody to task. All right, tell us to do better work. Demand it as an audience. All right, and you eventually, on a long enough timeline, you'll get it. All right, that's just how I feel. If you have any comments, go ahead and leave them below, or you can engage on the conversation on Twitter and Facebook. I'm all over the place. Talk to me about it. I'd like to hear what you think, all right? I'll see you guys around. I'm Kenny Roy. Rock on.